I used to be this person who has like 50 things on his to-do list, learning how to code, going to the gym, reading books, but I never ever ticked anything off that to-do list. I couldn't get anything done. I always felt like there was this great barrier between me and the activity that I wanted to do. Simple activities just like reading a book used to take me like earth-shattering effort to start, whereas I used to see some other people just doing it instantly without even thinking about it. Like there was this person that I knew and he was like reading a book every 3 or 4 days, whereas I was struggling to finish like 10 pages in a month. So I really thought to myself, why is it that certain things come so easy to certain people, whereas to me they require a lot of time, energy and effort? Well, I finally figured it out and it flipped my life around. My name is Jibreal Khan and I've been a software engineer at Fortune 500 companies like Dell Technologies, AMD, Synopsys. Additionally, I've been one of the top performing students in both my bachelor's program and my master's program. And I did all of these things while lifting weights, working on my personal development and learning martial arts 6 days a week. My goal is to help people quit procrastination and live up to their full potential. In this video, I'm going to talk about that one crucial thing that allowed me to make this transformation. You see, every single task that you do has something called an activation energy associated with that task. Now, this is the amount of energy that you actually require just to begin the task. The higher the activation energy of a task, the more effort, the more energy, the more resources you have to put to just begin that task. And it's more likely that you're not even going to do that task. The lower the activation energy, the lesser amount of energy required, and you're more than likely to do that task. So what I used to do previously was, just to get over this activation energy barrier for any activity, I just used to use raw motivation. I used to get pumped up, watch these movies, watch some motivational reels on Instagram. I used to get fired up, and for like the next 2 or 3 days I used to commit 100% to the activity. I used to work out like 60 minutes in the gym or read like 40 pages of a book. But then eventually I realized that motivation is a limited resource and it is bound to run out. And that happened to me. My motivation ran out after 3 or 4 days and I was like, nah, I no longer feel like doing these activities. The energy barrier is too hard to climb. I can't do it. And I used to just give up. And this vicious cycle like continued going on for years and years and years, which is why I never made really much progress in anything. The true secret to eliminate procrastination and build consistency is not using raw motivation. It's rather lowering the activation energy of an activity. So the big question is, how exactly can you lower the activation energy of an activity? How exactly can you make an activity easier to start? If you're interested in more of these raw low dopamine videos where we value information over entertainment, then consider subscribing to the channel because I'll be making more of such videos. You see, currently there are activities in your life that you do quite easily and on a fairly regular basis. It could be like playing chess, going out, socializing, driving, etc., etc. Or the most primal example of this is like brushing your teeth. Everyone does it and does it effortlessly. At least I hope you do it. The reason why you find these activities so easy to start is because they are part of your identity. When something is part of your identity, then it is incredibly easy to perform because the activation energy for that activity goes low. Like my friend who was reading like a book every 3 or 4 days did it because it was part of his identity. He had been reading ever since he was 6 years old. It had been instilled in him. It was who he is. It was his second nature pretty much. So it didn't require him absolutely any effort at all to start reading another book. Whereas to me, someone who hadn't touched a book in like 20 years, to me, this was like Mount Everest. It was not part of my identity. So a lot of the behaviors that you see in these individuals who just seem to do them quite easily, they have been instilled in them and they have been made part of their identity, especially during a very young age. So this leads to another big question. How do you make something part of your identity at this age? If you were not lucky enough as a kid to have these things instilled in you, how do you make changes to your identity now? Think of identities as voting boxes. The more votes you cast in favor of a particular identity, the stronger that identity gets. So imagine if you want to get the identity of a reader, the more books you read, the stronger that reader's identity becomes, and therefore it gets easier to read your next book. Now I know I've like really oversimplified the issue. You're probably wondering like, hey man, I can't even get like a few sessions in. How do you expect me to build an identity? Well, this is what I used to do. I used to like initially just focus on making progress or focus on intensity of a particular activity. Let's say going to the gym, for example. I used to have my workouts for like 60 minutes and try to lift as much weight as possible, try to do as many sets and reps as possible. And I used to measure, has my strength grown, has my body fat percentage reduced, even when these behaviors were not something I did consistently. So what I then decided was, you know what, I'm not even going to focus on these metrics. I'm not even going to focus on intensity. For the first 60, 30, 90 days, all I'm just going to focus on is showing up to the gym and making this thing part of my identity. So I just used to show up to the gym, work out for like 20-30 minutes, and even on days where I was like completely unmotivated, I just used to get in the gym, walk around, get the air conditioning, and then come back out. This way I was casting votes in favor of my identity, so the next session got easier. So that is the key. Initially, do not focus on intensity. Initially, do not focus on making progress. Initially, do not focus on any sort of metric. Initially, just focus on casting votes. There are going to be days when you're not going to feel like doing the activity, but just get in, do that activity for like 5-10 minutes, cast that vote, and feel good about yourself. Because once you cast enough votes and that thing is cemented inside you, that thing becomes part of your identity, then you can up the intensity. You're not going to quit, right? Because it's your second nature now. You don't know what else to do without this activity. And that is when you like really ramp up the intensity and start making progress. So the moral of the story is that you build the identity first and then you focus on making progress. If you're someone who's really ambitious, like you really want to achieve a lot in life, but procrastination and bad habits, they're just spinning you down, then click on the link in the description and book a one-on-one call with me. In this call, we'll discuss where you are currently in life and what your goals are and how I can help you achieve them. I'll see you there.